Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Tough Talk Tuesday with the Heavy Bag Boxing Team. I'm your host, Robert Alexander. With me tonight, we have El Capitan Lucas Biggers,
Hello,
our
everybody.
First Lady, Shakura Armstrong, and we have our great friend and fellow writer, James. James,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm doing good. Good to be back.
Great to have you. Joining us shortly or later will be Javier. Guys, we had a nice little round of action this weekend, and not only did we have a nice little fight set up this weekend, but it was for free on Fox. Fox put together their first telecast via PBC, and it featured Caleb Plant. So I just kind of want your reactions. Really, I just want your reactions to the fight, but I pretty much want to ask you guys, along with your reactions though, with Caleb Plant in that victory. Just simply, were you impressed or were you unimpressed? Lucas, we're gonna start with you, buddy.
I mean, he did what he had to do, but for me, it was still kind of, the bare minimum. I would have been a little bit more impressed should he have been able to stop Truex. Not that Truex is not game. I just think he probably should have been able to at least get him out of there, at least to me. So, no, I believe it was me and Sakura who were talking outside, or I've seen a text from her in our group chats. It was basically saying Caleb Plant performed better in his last fight, and I completely agree.
Yeah, that was us talking, and I felt that he looked a lot more crisp and mean. I just wanted he had like more of a killer instinct, seemed like, in the last fight than he did in this fight. Not to say he wasn't trying to get Truex out, because I think he wanted it to happen. But so you're not going to be able to get everyone out. And Truex he's pretty good at surviving. So once you're in a war with somebody like James DeGale, as Truex was, you can just figure that, he's seen it all just about. I hated the fact that he was in survival mode. Like, I felt like he should have just went for it, If you get knocked out, you get knocked out, but at least you're like going for it.
Right.
But instead, I think we saw a Truex that was, complacent with just getting to 12 rounds. So I hate when that happens.
So James, why do you think that was with Truax though? Do you think that Caleb Plant really is that impressive now, and that
He
fighter, that kind of fight?
he definitely is impressive. He's got strength, speed, skills, footwork. He's got it all. He's a total package. Truex, just not as strong. He's just not a strong fighter as Caleb Plant. But to his credit, he landed some good blows in the last round. He landed some really nice uppercuts. And one thing that really caught my attention for Truex was that his corner was asking him to fight hard when he had a Plant against the ropes, and he did. I mean, limited success, I'll admit, but he really attacked when he had Plant on the ropes and did land some good blows. Landed them late in the fight, but overall he was just outgunned from the get. And you got to admit that he's lost some big fights. He's lost to Jacobs, Durrell, DeGale. So in his big step up fights, he comes up a little short. Now Plant, well, it's kind of expected, to be honest with you. But hats off to Truex. He gave it a good go, with good 12 rounds. Probably better for Plant, but he did okay.
Now, some of that, guys, as Caleb was talking in the after the fight or whatnot, some of that he said was due to an actual hand injury. He believed that he might have fractured or broken his hand. If that's the case, guys, is a lengthy layoff going to present problems for him this year, especially considering all the talk that we're hearing?
Yes and no.
I'll
Go ahead.
You're
Go
right.
ahead.
Yeah, I had actually forgot about him actually hurting his hand, and that is going to take a while. And while they were on a specific, how do you say it? They were on a course that was going to have it where they would be able to link up after each of them had one fight, or well, rather two fights for Canelo. Now we have a situation where would that hand be good by September, which is usually another Canelo date, Mexican Independence Day or weekend rather. I mean, I don't think so. If I'm honest with myself, I mean, he'll just be testing it out at that point. Depending on how bad the situation is with the hand. And does that diminish his ability later when they do actually when they are able to fight? That hand will now be like a part of the discussion. So for me, I'm hoping that it's not that bad of a hand injury. But yeah, that September is looking kind of funny now. But see, this is what the problem is, guys. It's like when we start talking about people that's just like stringing out these fights as long as we can, and then it's like you screw up your own money. Because they keep like, oh, let me fight this person. Well, let me fight this person. Well, I'm going to fight, and then your opponent's got to fight somebody. And like basically it's a whole year of you fighting everybody except who you said you really wanted to fight and who the fans say they want you to fight. So now we have an injury that's also in play. So this is the part that I hate about. It's what happens when we string these fights out longer than necessary.
Which then I want to go to Lucas next on this point, because Lucas was very critical in the turn down of a Canelo fight last year because they were offering Caleb Plant on short notice. So with that being said, Lucas, and now this injury comes into play, do you think Caleb Plant is actually going to re-strategize or rethink possibly taking on another fight rather than Canelo this year?
I think so. He seems to be pretty smart about his career management. Like I was saying, and always backing him with not taking that, short notice fights, especially against Canelo. That's a fight that's going to build your legacy quite a lot. He knows that. He's aware of that. So I honestly think he will wait until he feels like he is in a good spot to beat Canelo. I do not think he's in a hurry to jump in there like a lot of other fighters are nowadays just for the money. He actually wants to win, and he thinks he can win. I think he's going to wait it out and maybe fight some more safe fights until he trusts his hand a little bit better.
James, what's your take on the hand injury? Do you think it's legit, and do you think it weighed a problem with him in this fight? That's why he wasn't able to knock out Truax.
The hand injury, it came into play at some point in the fight, but he's finished strong. So I'm not really thinking that hand injury was all that serious. It surfaced after the fight, and who knows? But I'm just hoping that that heals well for him, and they can get back to his training regimen, get him back in the ring for a date with Canelo late in the year. So that obviously would be September, that Independence Day weekend, and that would be awesome if he can get by. Canelo can get by Saunders. In a sense that there's no need for a rematch with Saunders, because if that happens to be a really, really good fight, a good close fight with Saunders, I'm sure they're going to want a rematch. And that would be September 16th. So who knows? But as far as the injury, I think he should be able to roll for a date with Canelo in September. I just didn't really think watching him in the last rounds that it was that serious. He was throwing with both hands. And he lands hard punches. He throws hard punches. His jab is pronounced, good rights, overhand. He was throwing it all. He didn't hold back. So I really don't feel that injury was that serious. Legit, yeah, it was, but maybe not too serious, I hope.
Alrighty, so guys, before we go, go ahead, Lucas.
I was going to say we do have some comments here. CJ Hooker says, Caleb Plant is looking ahead to a big fight with Canelo. let the negotiations begin for a fight in December. Gives him time to heal.
Yeah, and we're going to touch on that actually next, and that's a very good point. Very good point, and actually, that's what my thoughts are. But we'll touch on that here in the next topic. But before we do, I just want to go to Shakura real quick for a last touch on this weekend. A good person that she knows, a friend of hers, Kofi, or however you pronounce that, the heavyweights on the undercard. The heavyweight up and coming fighter, he kind of put on a little show with that knockout. So I just wanted you to speak on about him, who he is, and what we can expect.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed with that uppercut for sure. I mean, and he when he didn't get credit for the first knockdown, he went right back at it. It's Michael Coffey. He goes by Coffee Time. And, the thing about him that really impresses me is that he always seems so calm and so, used to being on a larger stage as far as, being at a large PBC televised fight. He never showed any signs that, he's nervous or, not used to that type of an atmosphere. And, part of it is he's had some great sparring with, other heavyweights and from previous years up to now. And the other part is that, he's a veteran. So, he knows how to be calm under pressure. So I think that's going to help him. A lot of times when people are in the military and they've lost a couple of years and you see that age, or the number, you know what I'm saying? And you're like, wow, he only got 12 fights or however many it is. It really hides how much experience they do have when they fight and have these careers overseas or, on these cards with the military. So they really hide how good and how experienced someone like a Michael Coffey is. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in the future, and I'm very happy that it's coffee time.
Yeah, last year was the year of the uppercuts. It looks like he's starting out this year as well.
That's true.
That was impressive. Very impressive.
Real quick, we are joined now by Javi. Javi, you're late. We docked your pay last week. This week, I'm putting you on a verbal warning. You are now on a verbal warning. But real quick, give us your reaction to Caleb Plant briefly here, and I kind of just want to know if you were impressed or unimpressed.
I kind of have like mixed emotions. I'll be honest with you. I expected him to look a little better, but Caleb Truax, he pretty much did as much as he can. I think the different skills were like a lot, but again, now I expect Caleb Plant to look invincible and top of the line all the time. You're gonna have a night off one time. Not saying that he did, but I don't think Caleb Truax gave him a lot to work with, to make him look as he usually looks against other people. I'll be honest with you, I was more impressed when he fought Uzcategui because I think Uzcategui is more like a dangerous opponent. But I think it's a nice, solid experience for Plant. He definitely has the goods and everything, but this is something that will take you back to the drawing board and analyze a few things to work on, to tweak on for the next one. Once you get in there with the big boys.
All right, Javi. So, guys, tuning in to our next topic, and James, you kind of already touched on this, but I just kind of want to go over your guys' thoughts and just kind of review it. But Canelo actually is putting together a game plan right now for this year. We already know that he'll fight February 27th against Yildirim. And then next, he's announced, as you stated, James, that he will be taking on Billy Joe Saunders. And that fight will be in May, I believe, around Cinco de Mayo. He did state he wanted to fight at least 4 or 5 times this year. I think he's on pace to do that. Is Canelo putting together a blueprint and giving us and showing us his status and his legacy right now, that he's going to fight often and be active. And what are your thoughts on it? And these announcements and are coming really fast and furious. What are your guys' thoughts on Canelo and what seems to be his game plan so far? Lucas, I know you are very opinionated on all things Canelo. So
man. Yildirim is what it is. I mean, I honestly and absolutely hate it. But, it's a mandatory. He needs to get out of the way at some point, or he can just drop the belt like everybody else in this position. As far as that's concerned, Saunders, I like Saunders for right now. I'm not going to complain about that. Obviously, he has time, so at least he's getting a full camp, unlike his last couple of opponents. So, there's that. But so far, I mean, maybe the Golden Boy split was a good thing if he's actually going to be like scheduling himself out in advance like this. It gives somebody to look forward to, and people like me and you something to talk about.
Okay, but are you overlooking your opponent when you're already scheduling another fight?
I don't know if it means you're overlooking, but it is very disrespectful, Sakura.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess so. I think you're right on that, too. My problem with this is we need to go ahead and see this Yildirim fight. Number one, so we can see it and it's done, so we can get to the next one, right? But also because I've recently seen that Angel Garcia, the trainer extraordinaire, he was saying that he thinks that Yildirim isn't going to be as easy a fight as we, think it is. So if that's the case, then I want it to hurry up too, because I still want to see it, and I want to see if it really is going to be some action. I mean, is Canelo going to try to make this look like, it's a hard fought fight, or is he going to make it a quick KO? In my opinion, it's just up to Canelo how he wants this fight to look. Not for no type of, I know some haters of Canelo are gonna be like, yeah, because it's gonna be like fixed. No. I mean, like, it's really up to him as far as what strategy he wants to have in this fight, because I think that's how much superior of a boxer he is gonna be to a Yildirim. But I'm looking forward if somebody like Angel Garcia thinks that it's gonna be a give and take type of fight, and it is not gonna be easy, I want to see that too. I'm there for it. So, but I think this BJ Saunders fight, we haven't seen BJ Saunders fight in a long time. But the last fight that I do recall him fighting, he is very technically sound, more so than anything else that you can say about him to me. So for me, I'm like looking forward to that fight more, because I'm just tired of seeing the same type of boxer in front of Canelo recently. Stand up in front of him, dare to be hit, and ready to get hit so they can get their punch off. I'm tired of seeing that brand, I want to see something different, like I feel like we would see in a BJ Saunders.
So, James, my question to you then, and you kind of hinted towards this, and I'm under the same opinion. I think Caleb Plant would be looking at a fight possibly actually in December with Canelo. I think that makes sense to round out the year. What do you think about the game plan then for Canelo? Do you think it would be February, May, September, then possibly December to round out the year? And do you think he could possibly maybe get stopped in his tracks?
No, I really don't think there's anyone to stop him in his class now. I think the fight with Yildirim is kind of what we're thinking here collectively. It's kind of a stay busy, and hopefully Saunders comes around for the May fight. I think that's pretty much being set up at the moment. I don't think it's finalized in any way, but the one thing that we Sakura touched on a little bit is that Canelo's had a lot of fights, and there's a lot of fights. He's got like, I don't know, close to 50 fights on his record, or whatever, 54, whatever it is. I've just not been interested in a lot of his fights. I was never interested in watching him fight Liam Smith or his brother Callum Smith. Never was interested in watching him fight Amir Khan and a couple others. Honestly, I mean, it's just like, okay, so we got a kind of a superstar and someone who's just there to take a whooping. So,
man, where
honestly,
you been, James?
yeah, no. I tell you what, this fight with Yildirim to me is like, man, let's just get this out of the way because I probably won't even watch it, to be honest with you. And if he moves into Saunders in May, May 5, that'd be fantastic. Saunders, I've seen fight, and actually Sakura, he fought recently. He fought Martin Murray somewhere in England. So it's not been that long since we've seen him.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was Martin Murray. Is that right? I'm just thinking it was.
Yeah.
Sounds right. Yeah.
I think
So, but anyone could have missed that one for sure. But the fight with from Saunders that really impressed me was so funny when he fought David Lemieux. That was impressive.
Yeah.
That was really impressive because I got respect for Lemieux. He's a hard hitter. He's a hard puncher, and he can whoop. But Saunders was just on his game that night.
Mm-hmm.
Outboxed him, outpunched him, outclassed him, just everything him. And I hope that if he gets that shot with Canelo, which looks like it's coming, that it's super duper competitive because that's what Canelo needs to make his career look good. There's just too many fights that I see that how do I put it? I just don't care to watch. I've not been concerned with these fights. They've not been. Golovkin, I'm there,
Right.
But everything else, and Avni Yildirim is one of those fights, I think. And, hopefully that turns out to be a good scrap. Hopefully Yildirim gives them a good 4 rounds, maybe 6 rounds. Who knows?
That's definitely fair, James. That's definitely fair to say. You're right. The Smith brothers, neither one of them look even remotely close or good against Canelo. They can't compete with him. Yildirim, we're yet to see. But you're right. Some of these fights that Canelo does take on, he's already favored to win, and we already know he's going to win. With that being said, the man who's not going to hold his tongue on this topic, Javi, this is your time to shine, sir. Speak on it.
Before you go, Javi, let me read some comments here. Canelo wants to show, this is CJ Hooker, Canelo wants to show he's a true Mexican warrior like Salvador Sanchez and Julio Cesar Chavez by fighting often. Continued saying, I like that plan.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the fact that you guys know, like you said, I haven't been shy to say my feelings about Canelo. But at the same time, with everything going on and what he's been doing, I think, like I said before, when he wanted to fight him over anybody else, I was like, okay, I don't know about this Yildirim fight. But after that, Callum Smith, being that he was unified, the Super 6 champion, that one guy that people were saying, he does have the guts, and he looked solid, so I think it's okay. I can actually let Canelo slide with this. I just hope that coming from now on, now that he has basically the whole, he's managing his own career, he's promoting himself and everything, I feel like he should be, give us this fight that we want to see him against, that he knows that those are things that on the to-do list, because there's a fighters that at 160, when he was at 160, there was a bunch of matchups that he didn't get to. Now he's at 168. There's a few matchups to be made, so hopefully he goes for those. And I hope I see like James, you know what I'm saying? Like I think there's a few fights on his record that you basically would just like, he just fought people for their names because they were either too little for him, they were coming up in weight, or they were just at the end of their career, and I guess he just wanted those names on his record, which is okay, I guess. Everybody does that for the most part. But I think like from now on, Canelo, if he really wants to prove something, he should Stop with this, like, catch weight, or trying to get these fighters after 2-3 weeks when they just fought a brutal fight, or trying to get them the all the edges and all the benefits of the A side, where it's like you're already favored to win, and now you taking all the advantages, where basically it's like you taking from the guy that he just won his shot. I think children fight. I think he's mandatory, so I'm not even that mad. I think it's a mismatch for sure, but I think he deserves, like James says, that's pretty much a stay busy fight, and he deserves that after what he just did. Especially he's gonna go after Saunders. Saunders, for the most part, he's not a type of guy to just stay there. So yeah, Canelo's being known to struggle with guys that move around, that are quick on their feet, and have some solid, fundamentals. So I would like to see, now that Canelo has improved, how he handles a mover, basically a boxer, a slick one like Saunders. But little by little, I get less critic of Canelo, and I'm giving him a little more props because what he's doing. He just took Oscar out of the picture. I give him props for that. Oscar wasn't helping him much. He built him up, but that's it. Now it's time for him to do what he has to do, kind of like Mayweather did. He's calling some fights. He said he wants to be active. Outside the ring too, the way he carries himself, he do a lot of charity. He goes to these hospitals with these kids, so he's earning my respect. So I still think he did a lot of ins and outs, using his beat A side to be where he's at. But I ain't mad that what he's doing now and what he's still yet to accomplish, because the kid is young. I ain't mad. I'm actually excited to watch somebody become the superstar that they are going to be in the sport.
He's being wooed right now. Being wooed by Canelo.
Here's why, and this is probably where the argument comes into play. And this is more geared towards Lucas, unfortunately.
I'm sure.
But I have to go here with this. So my question is, what more do you want for Canelo to prove to you? But here's why that's my question. The man goes up to 175 and beats Kovalev, back down to 168, and then beats a champ in Callum Smith. Now he wants to campaign at 168, right after he just fought in December, right? Was it December or January?
I can answer this because I already know where it's going.
No, hold on. No, I'm not done. Let me finish. Let me finish. Now comes right back and fights a mandatory. His mandatory at 168, where he wants to campaign at in February, right after the last fight. Next, he wants to take a Billy Joe Saunders, which is a legit challenger, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe undefeated. Then after that, we're talking undefeated IBF champion Caleb Plant. And then there might even be a fight in between there. So if this man is not the greatest out there right now, what more do you want from him?
Caleb Plant's not signed yet, right? That's not a done deal.
All of these are hearsay, other than the Yildirim.
In fact, I don't think Saunders is signed on the dotted line yet either.
No, all of these,
that's
other
not
than
done.
Yildirim. Right,
So
other than Yildirim, that's
we can't even talk about those. I'm gonna admit, Saunders is a legit fight for him as far as styles clash go. He's a big guy, knows how to use his range, and he's got some power. I think he can hurt Canelo. I like that fight. I'm not going to downgrade that fight whatsoever, but that's still not even made, so I can't give him credit for something he hasn't done yet. With that being said, all this talk about campaign and wants to campaign, he hasn't campaigned back at 154. He still hasn't campaigned at 160 to me. So what? I don't give a shit what his plans are. I don't, plan to do one thing, but actually do it. There's still people at 154 he did not fight. There's still people at 160 he didn't fight and is avoiding still to this day. He's not going to do it. So, yeah, I mean, he's making it look good because, like we were talking about earlier, he likes to just grab a name here and there or go up and grab a fielding's belt. Nobody knew about who he was before Canelo fought him. He sees small achievements, small names, which also add to the achievement to this is who I am, this is who I beat. But to be honest with you, it's very padded. I think everybody knows that. So, hell to the no. I'm not impressed. He's still got a lot to prove for me. campaigned a thing. Why don't you, unify completely? I doubt he will. That's just me, because he don't want to take certain fights. He's a pick and chooser.
So, unfortunately, in this sport, whether how you feel about the fight or not, to me, Kovalev is a name, a legit name. Callum Smith was a legit name. And you just are throwing these guys under the bus like they didn't do shit in their career.
No,
and they
said pick and choosers. That is not what I said.
Yeah.
I said he's pick and choosing, okay? Somebody who's smart and has smart management behind them can see, based on styles and based on, how he fights, I'm pretty sure I could take him. Like, there's certain fights that Canelo avoids now, and if you notice, it's the styles like a Trout. It's the styles like that. And actual boxers, not just people that get in there and slug, a little bit more of a sharpness to them, a little bit smoother fighters, he has trouble with. And he avoids at all costs.
And that's the problem right there. It's like, no, we're not saying that he doesn't fight people.
Yeah, no, you can't say anything bad about Canelo or automatically it's hate. Look, I want the guy to succeed. He is the face of boxing. If he looks good, boxing looks good. And let's face it, right now, especially in the United States, boxing's a niche sport. It really is.
I mean,
so basically,
they get these names in there with him and then they don't fight. I mean, Cole didn't look like he fought like he normally fights. And here we go with Smith in December, and he didn't look like he was trying to win. I want to know, I mean, is that money is seriously good. I understand boxers got to take that money. I understand that. But at least get in there and say to yourself, like, hey, I mean, I could actually win. Make me as a boxing fan feel that you want to win. I didn't see that with his last two opponents.
Mm.
And on top of that, fielding, that was just a total mismatch. That was like, just give me your belt.
Yeah.
And then we talking about the avoidance. My problem is with Canelo is you avoid people that's your age too, right? He avoids a lot of people that's like got the age on their side as an advantage. And the same body, the physicality that would match his. He avoids those. And he's avoiding people like Lara and they have styles like Lara and Trout. So it's a lot of different.
Those are two names.
Hold on, it's a lot of different things that add up to. I don't have to be on Team Canelo right now. I need for him to fight the best. If he want me to be on Team Canelo, even if he lost, I would be feeling like I can be Team Canelo because he's fighting the best. Right now, what we're seeing is not giving us that.
Okay, so here.
Reason, I'm not finished. Hold on a second. This is the reason. I hate when I have to say that. But this is the reason why people come up to me and be like, well, why would they still want to see they still talking about a Pac Mayweather too? I mean, why do people still want to see that? Because the generation that is active right now is not fighting the best. That's why a fight like a Mayweather Pac 2 still looks enticing to us boxing fans. When they start fighting people and start fighting each other and the best, then we wouldn't have that. Mike Tyson wouldn't be the biggest star of 2019 as far as pay-per-view buys.
Right. I mean, everybody thinks Floyd, ducked and avoided people, but I think Canelo's being worse at it at this point.
So you're right.
Yeah, no.
And I just wanted to jump in, Shakur, not to interrupt you, but so I could address some of the things that you were saying. And Lucas, you're absolutely right. This Canelo situation right now is the Floyd Mayweather component. That is the Floyd Mayweather stance. And that's what everybody hated Floyd all those years for. Guess what? That's why they came to watch him, because they wanted to see him lose. And I don't know, maybe it's just how us boxing fans are. But for whatever reason, we want to see the thrill, the victory and the agony of defeat. For whatever reason, you always want to see the agony of defeat. What if they're just better than all these guys? Now, with that being said, Shakura, they tell you that boxing, just like wrestling or any physical sport, is two parts. It's one part physical and one part mental. it's not your fault if these guys go in the ring and aren't confident in themselves that they already believe they're going to lose. That's not Canelo's fault. If anything, that's proven how great of a fighter he is.
I never said that it was his fault, but I'm still not going to be Team Canelo until I see you fight people that are up to your caliber.
So the names that you mentioned that he doesn't want to fight, he fought.
It is still remotely his fault.
He fought Lara.
It's your fault when you're using your A side. See, so you're like, I'm gonna give you the fight, and it's gonna be on short notice, and you gotta cut weight, and it's gonna be a small ring. You can't box. This is what he does.
So Lucas, why does every single sport in America have quote unquote home field advantage?
Home field advantage can't happen every goddamn game, though. And with Canelo, it is every damn
boxing's
game.
A different
you are
sport.
Never on a B side. You're never on an away game. Everywhere Canelo goes, Canelo is the A side.
But think about the fight with
right.
think about the fight with Golovkin. I mean, I look at that as a 1-1. I think that's a tie, and I think that he should have addressed that months ago. There should have been a trilogy there to settle that 1-1.
Oh yeah.
And he fought Danny Jacobs, correct? Mm-hmm. And that was pretty cool. Home field advantage or not, that was a good fight. It was a good scrap. But his fight against Chavez to me was just, he was fighting a skeleton of Chavez or a shadow of Chavez. There's no way that Chavez could perform at that weight. There's no way. And there's a lot of others. So there's, to me, a lot of negativity there, and I think it's well earned. That's just the way they played his career. But he could make up for it. If he gets by Yildirim, he will, and faces a really, really good Saunders. He's back. He's already on top, but what I'm saying is that doubters like me, might change their perception of him. But my perception of him from a professional level is not very strong. On a personal level, it is, because he's a smart guy. He's a good person. He's educated. I love the fact that he's not a big talker.
Yes.
He's actually pleasant to listen to in Spanish. He's rather eloquent and soft-spoken, and I think the world of him as a fighter. But I kind of separate things and look at his career and go, I could do without half of these fights.
That's where I'm confused at, because I mean, let's all face it. I mean, I did not have the greatest utmost respect for Floyd's career. However, there are some that are not question marks. With Canelo's fights, I don't know if I could sit here and say there's not really a question mark. I'll give him the Golovkins and Jacobs, and really that's about it. I think everything else is a big question mark.
I think there's something missing there, and it's sorry about that. There's something missing there, and it's Charlo and also Demetrius Andrade. It's not too late though.
If he was really about the legacy, he would be trying to unify. That's my point.
And those are the young guys, so I understand that. But what's wrong with beating Cotto? You didn't mention that.
Cotto, that was a beautiful fight. That was a beautiful fight. It was a great fight.
I'm gonna tell you why, James. Why they say that is because
Excellent
they're
fight.
calling these guys old. They're saying they were too old when Canelo beat them. Is why they don't throw that in there.
I'll see you're old and add the fact he was never really that good at 154. He did not beat anybody. Look, at 147, the man was amazing. He built his Hall of Fame career. At 154, he proved jack. I love the man. He's a great fighter, one of the best technicians there is. He didn't do anything at 154 and above. Nothing.
I mean, my thing is partly what Lucas said as far as Cotto, as well as Amir Khan. These are not real 160 pounders or 154. They're really 147s.
155
Their bodies are maxed out.
But they made the weight on fight night.
Right, but they were
But they still the smaller man the night of the fight. Very much smaller.
And they had to come up not to 154, but 155.
That's right. I forgot. It was a catch.
Let's not forget that.
Right, I forgot that.
The man had his own weight class all to himself.
Yeah, that's Canelo weight.
Yeah, that was his weight class. He made his own weight class. You know when they made the new weight class now? I think it's what's for the kid's name?
Bridger
Weight. You know, the WBC could have easily made a way at 155. You know, the Canelo way.
But 155.
And this is what annoys me more than anything with Canelo. Okay, so the 155, what was that? Like 3 or 4 fights in a row?
Yep.
And
I think more than that.
And there was times where it was still technically written for 154, right? The contracts for 154, his ass couldn't make it. They had to bump it up, once. So if I'm Angulo, because I know it at least happened to Angulo, I knew it happened to others too, but at least Angulo, if it happened vice versa, everybody be dogging the hell out of Angulo. Who knows? Angulo might not even have got the fight. Canelo could have backed out. All that could have happened. But because it's Canelo, he just offers him some extra money. Well, yeah, because you're already the A side, you can just take money off the top. Here you go, just take that. We're good now? Well, yeah, because, I'm broke as fuck, so I'm going to take it. And you see what I'm saying, though. What Angulo can't do nothing. So if it was vice versa, you just shit up the creek.
All right, guys. So that
Rob's
after
just like,
that wonderful scrap,
I gotta move on.
Yeah, he's like,
after that we have these scraps here, and we go back and forth, and it's insightful. And I just want the fans to know there always can be multiple sides to it. I don't disagree with what you guys are saying. I don't think you're wrong. You're entitled to your own opinion. I just have my own opinion. So moving along. No, we do want to talk about this situation here with Manny Pacquiao now. So they've announced that Manny Pacquiao is now champion in recess. Guys, what exactly does that mean in regards to his title? And are we gonna see Manny, because he keeps getting name dropped and we've heard nothing from the man himself? What's going on with Manny Pacquiao? And what does this actual champion in recess mean, if you can break it down for our fans, Lucas?
I mean, it's real easy. Champion recess is basically saying we don't want to strip him because he's Manny Pacquiao. So we're just going to say he's in recess and award somebody else the title currently, which is Ugas. And I'm happy for Ugas.
Yeah.
He got it. And this will actually cause Ugas to get more fights, because right now Ugas is very avoided. For good reason, but still, he's being very avoided. I'm hoping that this will actually draw him some names, draw him some bigger money, draw him some bigger recognition, because the man deserves it.
So, Shakur, they're talking about already you guys fighting Spence. So, really, that's exciting news right there for you guys especially. But what is your whole take on this? You sounded like you were ready to get into it.
No, I just had the perfect name for in recess. It's more like stripped in honor.
I like that.
Like your strip, it's an honor because it's just recess, like you went on the playground, you're getting to take a break. Like, back in the day it was called recess instead of PE. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, just you're allowed to take a break. Okay, but we're going to do it in honor. And I mean, I'm glad it was Ugas too, Lucas. I really am. He deserves that. But also, if he fights Spence, that belt is going over to Spence too, guys. The main thing with Ugas that I have an issue with is finishing. Okay, he can outpoint you in certain points of the fight, but over the longevity of a 12-round fight, it's like, something at the end is like it's the urgency, the need to want to be like to get this or take it from somebody. He don't have that killer instinct. These are all things that come into play towards the end of a fight. If you're gonna, his type of style usually warrants that it's gonna be a 10-rounder or a 12-rounder. So I noticed, like, towards the end of the fight, he's, I don't think he gives out a gas or anything, but it's just something missing that, really he needs a good trainer like Teddy Atlas at that point to be like, what the hell, do you want this shit or not? Let's see, get in there and, take this belt. So if he doesn't change his strategy or his mental positiveness about what he wants to do at the end of the fight, I see this as a belt that will transfer over to Spence as well.
Yeah, that happens a lot with the Cuban fighters. You know, what you saw with Bartholomew, man, that was like painful to watch. You know what I'm saying? And listen, man, I used to enjoy Rigondeaux. A lot of people say, how can you watch this man? I used to enjoy that because even though it was not action packed, there was some technicality. You know, there were some beautiful sweet signs. There were some fundamentals stuff like I guess if you love the sport, you can appreciate. But Bartholomew, man, I don't know. I just like he started good, then he fade off, and he went from to cruising mode to like let me just bore people to death while I make this fight closer for no reason. Because he literally got the fight closer. But as
That's what
far
he
as
does.
Ugas, I mean, I think Ugas he proved himself to be a top contender at 147, and he has the goods. But I think if anything, like you said, he's sometimes he just I guess he gets too comfortable on cruising mode that he's not, when he has the ability to finish off or just put the exclamation point on his fights so he can put himself on the mix. He doesn't. He doesn't, and he just basically he gives us what just the bare minimum. I think because he has way more in the tank. I don't know if it's maybe the Cuban style that is way too defensive and not just as aggressive and fan friendly as the Mexican style. But at the same time, this is the pros. This is the hurt business, and this is not where you always win by points, trying to make it to the next Olympic. You trying to have your name out there and be in the mix with the big names so you can make your cash and build your legacy while you at it. I think somebody should. King Khan has the message. King Khan, he goes in there either knocks you out or he gets knocked out, but he don't go there on cruise mode. So he got the message. My point is, this whole Reese's championing Reese's super champion, champion.
Javi, hold on, time out. I gotta call you out real quick. I gotta call you out for 1 second because I just was about to interrupt you and say, man, he always doesn't answer the question. No. So you really went around the whole world. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going back to the question actually. So this whole thing with Pacquiao, right? I mean, at this point, I ain't mad because the men deserve it. If they want to give the men $1 million just to hold the belt or take pictures with it, he deserves that. He earned that. There's nothing else to prove for him too much. My point is, when you start doing this with the young guys coming up, the young guns, right? You're messing up the game because now you have this fight. Let's say somebody like Teofimo Lopez, that they didn't have no gifts given. They didn't give him a handout. He had to earn his shot, say what he had to say, and do it so that he accomplished what he did. So not everybody has the easy route like some other guys done. But when you doing all these franchise, super championing Reese's, championing break, championing quarantine, whatever the things they want to come up with, right? You kind of messing up the sport because some guys are gonna feel like, okay, why can this guy do it and why this guy cannot? And the casual fans, they have no fucking idea what's going on. So they ask you, so who's the champion? Wait, wow, how's he the champion? He didn't fight this guy. They have no idea what's going on. Us, the hardcore boxing fans, we confused as fuck as well. So it's like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
I think I have an answer to one of your questions, Javi, and it's the fact that he hasn't been training. And it's a damn good thing because in 2020, it was a horrible year for us. But watching Pacquiao train, especially outdoors, is a real event, man. There's a lot of people involved, and I'm talking a lot. And the Filipinos, they stick together. They're beautiful people, and I call it Pinoy pride. And it's just the truth, man. Any one of Pacquiao's training sessions this year would have been a super spreader event, man, because there's a lot of people there. So if he hasn't had a fight this year or an event, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of people involved there.
But I wanted to comment on what Javi was saying. Javi, and normally I agree with you. I don't think anybody should be getting gifts. But let's put it this way: Tio would have gotten a chance should he earn it, whereas Ugas, even if he earns it, I don't feel like he's going to get the chance. So even if you demand, say, the WBA demanded Ugas Spence or Ugas Porter, whatever, Porter can just has an option to be like, I'm not going to fight that, whereas Ugas doesn't, so he has to be given it in order for people to actually get attracted to actually want to fight him.
Right, but I think, Lucas, to your point, I think the difference between them two is that Lopez built that reputation and he built leverage to ask for these fights by his knockouts, by winning the fights the way he was winning. So even with Comey, I never thought he was going to drop Comey on the first round and get rid of him like that.
No, so he definitely earned it. I'm not saying he didn't earn his reputation, but, some people don't have the gift of power, and nothing you can do about it.
That's true. But I think with Ugas, I love the guy. I'm a fan of Ugas, by the way. I just feel like sometimes he can close the show, put an exclamation mark, and he goes on cruise mode. And I guess some styles are like that. Yeah. James, to your point about Pacquiao, man, that's one thing that I always respect about the man, because that's an old school thing. Muhammad Ali used to do it. Camacho used to do it. A few fighters from old school, they will get a whole crowd and train outside, train their communities, train with their people. And that's something that, that's like the old school marketing. We're not fighters nowadays, they going back and forth on social media saying, yo, you got how many followers? Oh, I got least followers, blah, blah, blah. Back then, we're like, no. You see all those thousands of people running behind me, doing my 6-7 mile run? Those are my followers, my true original followers.
Right.
Definitely agree, and it's sad, but I think it's more about America's society that we don't have that. I don't think it's a possibility even, man. You get that many people around to be like, man, that's Floyd Mayweather. Let's jack his ass. It's America, man. This is America.
Oh, you got some comments, Lucas.
Yeah, let's see. CJ Hooker says, maybe Keith Thurman could get a second chance to get out of boxing purgatory and get a fight against Ugas. I take it.
That's another guy too, a top player at 147. We barely mention him because I don't know. He's being on the low lately. You know what I'm saying? He's being low key, right? That's why the cool kids say that, low key.
Yeah.
It's flying under the radar for sure.
When you're no longer a champion, there's no reason for you to look that way and take a high risk, and then you don't even have that title anymore. So that's a reason why Ugas, as Lucas was saying, needs that type of belt, to make people look his way, because otherwise they would look around him.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody help me out here. What's going on with Thurman? What's going on with one time, or shall I say none time? Because
nothing is going on.
what? I know he should be clamoring for a rematch or something. Is he injured? Laying low, spending money. What's going on with Thurman? I love Thurman.
He's back in the gym, guys.
Is he waiting off COVID?
He want a rematch. He did want a rematch with Pac-Man, but Pac-Man was like, nah, that's all right. So now he was trying to get the fight with Bud Crawford. Then top ranked Aram said, I don't want to pay you that. You're not worth that. So it's another person. It's another boxer that that Aram doesn't want to pay. So now I guess he's still surfing again to see who they can match him up with that he hasn't already been matched up with.
I was thinking that Bob Arum would really be in his favor to get Thurman in there against Crawford.
Right.
That's a
he didn't want
something's wrong with Arum.
Right, because he wanted to give Porter a hard time about how much money as well he was valuing.
He publicly said he didn't think that Terrence Crawford was worth the money. So, he's being stingy. That's all that is.
Yeah, he should roll out the red carpet for Thurman.
That is the saving grace right now. Any PBC fighter, even if, like I said, even if they have to do, the low end and then take a B side, they got to do what they got to do at this point to make those fights because Crawford's running out of options. CJ Hooker commented saying, Manny being in a recess puts us one step closer to Spence versus Crawford. Do you agree with that?
If that's gonna take for us to see that fight, if that's the plan, I'm with it. But I don't think that's the plan. I think that's just more like boxing politics. Them trying to get fees. No, them trying to get Pacquiao to pay champion fees without having to defend the belt. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, let's be honest. I think that's a WBA too, but the WBC, man. Don't get me started.
Look, CJ. Look, CJ. Unfortunately,
WBC. Javi,
unfortunately, CJ, you have Spence calling out Canelo and not even mentioning Crawford's name. So that's how far along we are with that fight.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, we're kind of replacing our Floyd. Like, Canelo is kind of taking the spot of Floyd. But nobody's really taking the spot of Manny. There's a blank spot there right now.
Well, eventually that will have to be taken. But right now, Canelo is the big paycheck. So trust me, you see a fighter hungry, even if he has no chance and he knows deep in his heart that he has no chance, that's a big paycheck, man. I think, we've seen a few of them that, took that fight, not more because they thought that they were going to win, but because it's like, I've been on this game for this much amount of time. I'm probably not going to see a million or two together. This is my only chance. Guess what? I'm going to go for it.
Well, what I think about it is I don't like that comparison of Mayweather and Canelo at all, because I felt like Mayweather had to fight some like real stiff competition. I mean, as far as we know from, to Oscar De La Hoya. And then only once he left that banner of Top Rank where we starting to see him be able to control, his marketing and control who he fights. And even then we saw him fight a Maidana, twice. We saw him fight some key individuals during that time period. But with Canelo, we're getting like he started out young fighting Floyd, which gave him a boost. He didn't have to go through all them wars that you had a Mayweather going through in the beginning. So I mean, that's one big difference to me. It's like we're seeing Canelo, as soon as he fought Floyd, he started doing the Floyd of his last 3 years, where I pick my opponents. I'm not going to take a lot of risks. You know what I'm saying? But that was like towards the end of his career. Whereas Canelo, we see he's been doing it throughout, except for the exception of Triple G to me.
So that kind of gets into a last topic, but I'm going to do something that I don't think I've ever done in life. But this kind of, you pointed out something for me, Shakur. But guys, do you actually find it kind of funny that the only time Floyd fought somebody twice was because they showed up a good showing and he knew he could beat them? So just because they had a good showing against him, the only time he would fight somebody twice was not really because it was controversial or anything, but because he knew he could beat him twice. And the fans actually thought that he was in trouble or had competition in that fight.
He fought Madonna twice, and to me, it was just a waste of time. I looked at that fight saying Madonna's got very, very little chance, outside chance of landing a big punch. That's hard to do against a guy like Floyd.
Yeah,
no, he's a technician in and out of the ring. Let's put it that way.
Well, I thought it was still a tough fight, because that's like you getting in there with Sean Porter in the early years. You remember when he was like more wrestling?
Even now, he still does that.
More wrestling than he was. Like now, he's way more polished. Just a different Sean Porter in there. I felt like that was the type of Maidana we saw in that first fight. Like he was ready to brawl and scrap it out.
He knew
the pressure on Floyd that he wasn't necessarily used to with other guys. So that's why that fight was like, close to me. But it also warranted us to be able to see a second time around. And I thought he fought Corrales twice. Or was it was somebody in the beginning.
Castillo.
Okay.
Twice. Which is the first one.
Yes.
Go to Castillo.
Yes. Thank you, Javi.
Yeah, I agree.
But you know what, guys? I think he fought Maidana more because of what Maidana did to Broner. And remember, there was a lot of hype around Broner when he was undefeated. There was a lot of comparison when Broner was going to be the next Floyd. So when he saw what Maidana did to Broner, he wanted to show Broner and the whole world, okay, this is how you deal with a guy like this. But for the first round, usually it will take 2-3 rounds for Floyd to adjust. I think that one it took him like 4 or 5 rounds because Maidana is sometimes it's easier to fight a fundamentally sound guy because you know what's coming, how they're gonna throw the punches. There's some guy that just throwing wild punches and you don't know what kind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's actually hard to fight the wild dude like Mayorga or Maidana than somebody that's like, nice and fundamentally sound, like let's say a Cotto, for example. But I think that his main objective of that fight was that, like, to show Broner and show all of us that, this is how you deal with a guy like Maidana, and this is why you will never compare me with Broner or anybody else. I'm Floyd. And he set himself apart because of that.
Yeah, Floyd was genius in that. Okay, with Robert Guerrero when he beat up Berto, right? And Berto was trying to do the shoulder roll, kind of mimicked him. Bronner kind of mimics him. So when Robert Guerrero beat Berto, then he piggybacked off that and was like, people are gonna think that Guerrero's got a shot against me. And the same thing happened with Maidana. Now I think with the Maidana fights, the first one was much more competitive simply because of the referee change. I mean, with Kenny Bayless, honestly, he's going to break it up any chance. I
think his name's Kenny Mayweather.
Yeah.
I call him Kenny Mayweather.
But with Tony Weeks is going to let you fight it out. Tony Weeks is going to let you work on the inside as long as, there's nothing insane going on. And Tony Weeks gave Maidana a shot to win, which a lot of people don't do that. I mean, can you imagine like Bernard Hopkins being told, you hold again, you clinch again, I'm going to deduct a point? I mean, that's essentially what that is.
Yeah. Another thing about that fight too with Maidana is that Floyd he filtered that out into social media and stuff to see whether the fans wanted to see an American or would we rather see a Maidana. And it was overwhelmingly that people said, no, we want to see that Maidana in there with you, because he had the hype behind him. So I think, like, you remember that's when American wasted like way too much time thinking that he was gonna get that Mayweather chick. So
yeah, and you know what too? I think part of what made that first fight with Maidana a little more interesting was the fact that Floyd wanted to, go toe to toe. He's standing there for the most part. We never saw like a Floyd like that. Where in the second fight, he was like, I got no reasons why I have to stand there and take hit from this guy. I might just cruise the way he did.
Right.
Even though he got hurt on the third round, Maidana touched him. But other than that, he was mostly using his boxing like we knew, instead of trying to be macho man and, trying to be Maidana his own game. He did be Maidana his own game, but that Floyd was getting hit. And not just with legal punches, but elbows, heads, pushing. Maidana was going. If Maidana could have thrown the mouthpiece at him, he would have done it.
All right, so speaking of Floyd, then just to move on here, and we just very briefly, but my take on this next topic here, situation, is that Floyd Mayweather actually just announced that he's canceling or throwing off his fight with Logan Paul, the exhibition with Logan Paul. They really didn't cite a specific issue. Guys, the way that they marketed this fight, the pricing points, they were trying to market it to get the most fans to watch it as possible. The way that they were marketing it, meaning $29.99 only for the first million subscribers, and then for a limited time it moved on up a little bit higher to like $49.99, and then eventually to the fight card, which would be like $69.99. Guys, I think they never hit their point on anything. I actually think the reason why they canceling it is because they haven't hit their market and got nowhere close, and they realized that this isn't a marketable fight.
Thank God.
I mean,
you know what?
Thank goodness.
Maybe money was the determining factor to see if they were gonna go through it with or not. But I think Floyd would embarrass his legacy by doing that. And I think I don't know if you guys touched on that on the Teofimo Lopez tweet. Um, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun yet, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I haven't, like I said, that I think these YouTuber things, uh, people have tried to tell me, look at it away from nowadays, times have changed, it's not as before, and this and that. But I think, there should be like an outside of the sport show or event or, whatever you want to call it, exhibitions, whatever you want to call it. But when these YouTubers are bringing all that clownish stuff to the sport, it kind of it damages. Let's say if, I don't know, maybe for somebody like me, I laced up the gloves. I went in there and it's just something that you hold into something, because it's, to me, I was seeing it like something that is honorary. It's something that's like glorious, like the old school gladiator stuff, something I will tell my kids and my kids. Now when you see these clowns doing all this stuff, I'll give them respect because they're in shape and they fight, they handle themselves as a man. But I feel like at times, for the most part, it's making a mockery out of the sport. You know what I'm saying? Take that to MMA. How come they're not taking that to MMA? I want to see them kicking, grappling, and do all this other stuff too.
It's just weird to me though, because we accept Ryan Garcia as a legitimate professional boxer, and even though he has a huge following as well, but we don't put the Logan, kid. Well, he's not a kid anymore, but young man into that same category. When I actually do feel like, the bigger one, he is trying to take boxing seriously. I mean, he is constantly in the gym. So I think as boxing fans, we're being a little too harsh. But what happens is when we have somebody like Logan and then we match him up, with a Mayweather or even the Nate. I forgot his last name. Sorry, I'm not into
Nate Robinson.
Nate Robinson. That's when you start feeling like it's a circus. You know what I'm saying? But if he was to get in there and really fight someone that's got like a similar record as him and is moving up the ranks, we might look at him a different way if he really wants to be taken seriously at his craft. And as far as them canceling that fight, I think the main reason it was canceled is because there was no desire from the boxing fans or the general fans, just your regular, Mayweather's a household name. This guy, Logan, is supposed to be, a YouTube name, but there was still no buzz about it on any social media platform or any boxing group. So it pretty much was dead in the water. They have a way of looking at these stats and things and these hashtags, and they can tell when something is a hot topic and when what the public wants. So that was just a no-go because there was no market for it.
Yeah, I 100% back what you're saying there. I mean, if you just talk boxing Twitter and you just get on there, you know the feel for the fans and whether this is going to get bought or not. And I think everybody kind of shat on it, rightfully so. I'm glad this fight is not happening. They do not deserve the stage for that kind of circus.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well said. So that's all the topics that I had, but I did want to end it kind of like I...
Tweet of the week we got to do real quick for Shakur.
Oh, you got a tweet of the week, Shakur?
I brought it back. I had to. Now, which one did I make tweet of the week? That's the question.
Al Bernstein.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
I got it up probably on your screen now if you're...
Okay, I got it. Not surprised Showtime Sean Porter is doggedly pursuing this fight. He fights everyone. All these guys in their prime. Brooke, Thurman, Garcia, Ugas, and Spence. He is a throwback warrior. And this came off a quote from Spence, Porter, in which he's trying to call it. He's still saying that he wants this Bud Crawford fight. So that was the response from Showtime's amazing commentator, Al Bernstein. And I just want to, say the same thing. Yeah, we got to show more love for our boxers, even if they don't win all of the fights. They're the ones that's fighting the best. They have earned our respect. And a lot of times boxing fans don't want to give these people they respect because, oh, they got a loss on their record. Yeah, but they're fighting the best. Meanwhile, we got other people making more money than he is and garnering more respect based off some lackluster records. So I just wanted to point that out, that's one reason why I love Showtime Sean Porter, because he is like, he wants this fight. He feels like his legacy will not be complete if he doesn't have a Bud Crawford on that record. I mean, how amazing is that? Is that he wants that on his legacy.
Definitely. You know, the crazy fact about Sean Porter, and a lot of people say it and speak about it, but I don't think they realize it's part of it, in the fact that he fought all these guys, but he's still standing toe to toe at the end of the fight.
No, I mean,
and he still put up a hell of a turnout and put up a lot of competition with these guys that they have to shake his hand at the end of it. He doesn't get whooped. He doesn't get beat down. Doesn't get knocked out. He fights toe to toe with these guys and just comes up a little bit short.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I mean, nobody can say he's ever gotten whooped, like you said. I mean, all his fights are close. He's in every fight that he's ever been in. I think he ever will be. You know, he's what, maybe 1 or 2 rounds from beating Spence. I mean, he got dropped. If that didn't happen, it's a different thing, you know. He's in all and Alberstein's 100% correct. I mean, there's other names on here than just Brooke Thurman, Garcia Ugas, and Spence. I mean, there's Bronner, there's others, but definitely a throwback fighter for sure.
That's a really, really good quote, or not a quote, but a tweet. But I talked to Sean Porter after he lost to Keith Thurman, and I said, man, get a rematch, and just keep him in front of you and pin him to the ropes and work him. And he looked at me and said, hell yeah. And I think he's, you know, was at the time and probably still is interested in getting that rematch. I wouldn't mind seeing it.
He doesn't get rematches, though.
No. He marches. He keeps marching.
Well, I think everybody else is like, nah, keep stepping, man. I took too much to beat you the first time. I don't want to mess with that again.
Yeah, even though Ugas,
don't do that again.
Right, and I think Ugas, out of everybody, I think Ugas is the one that wanted a rematch, and in this case, Sean wasn't asking for a rematch. I think he was okay with moving on, but Sean definitely, he's a throwback. You know, he comes and held his own. I think he got dropped by Bronner, by Spence, but that's because he's fighting every minute of every round until the 12th round. You know what I'm saying? And even when he lost to Brook, I think that was his first loss, he didn't look outmatched completely there. You know, he just broke that at that night. He was holding a lot and he was using whatever he had his advantage. But I said it. I would love to see Porter against Crawford, because we already saw how Spence went. And, you know, Porter definitely surprised me. I was expecting the brawler Porter. Porter started boxing Spence. And, you know, and handled himself on the boxing. So I would love to see how he handles Crawford and how Crawford handles just heavy pressure all the time. Somebody that's, you know, heavy, not just heavy, fisted, but, you know, strong, rugged fighter. Yeah.
And I mean, you can be faster than Spence. You could be than Porter. You could be faster than Porter. You could be stronger than Porter. You can outbox Porter, but you will never outwork Porter.
True.
And I respect that.
So, what are the chances that we'll see Crawford and Porter
pretty low
this year?
Pretty low, I think. I don't know.
Zilch.
It's high.
Yeah.
Well, at some point, Crawford is going to leave Top Rank, correct? I think that contract is over this year.
It's inevitable.
He should.
But I think the contract is over. He doesn't have to really buy himself out if it's over within.
Right. I think he has
9 months or something.
Fights, yeah.
Two fights left on that contract.
Okay, but I think that one of those fights should be and will be Porter.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
And at least Porter's willing to negotiate with Bob Arum, and the rest of everybody else is like, nah, you're not finna just give me what you want, you know.
Right, but I think the thing is it's not about Porter negotiating with Arum. It's Heyman with Arum, and they both said that, you know, they're not willing to mid heads. So I think that's out of the question unless Porter comes out of Heyman or Crawford comes out of a top rank, which most likely is the one Crawford, the one that has to get out of that or find a way where he can pressure Bobby to be like, give me those fights that I need, because right now, I mean, there's not much people he can go around on his stable, on the top rank side, on the Golden Boy side, and all of that. Even though we have my man Virgil Ortiz coming up, that's one kid that's gonna make a lot of noise.
Right.
And right now, probably he hasn't built that leverage to start asking for all these top guys, but eventually he's gonna be in the mix and with enough leverage to be like, well, I'm here now. Now you have to see me, and I have to see
him and Ennis Boo are gonna be like some serious problems for these older welterweights. Aging, not older, but aging welterweights.
Now, doesn't Crawford's contract end this year, regardless of whether he fights or not? Isn't it over like in September or something? Regardless of whether he fights, or does he have to have 2 more fights?
I think he has to have the 2 more fights. It depends. I mean,
okay. I thought there was a time limit on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, if Bob Arum doesn't want to pay for any competition, what else is he supposed to do? I would say he would want to let him out of the contract. If he doesn't want to pay for him to actually fight some real competition, let him go.
I don't think Bob will let him out of the contract, though. We already saw what happened with Floyd, what happened with Mike.
He mentioned, Bob Arum did mention something like that, where he said that he's, losing money on Crawford, etc. But he wouldn't let that affect the contract, and that they would work to finish the contract to its completion. So it's a pretty shitty situation for Crawford.
Yeah, I mean, he has done it to Floyd, Mikey Garcia, and a few other fighters. So Bob Arum's not the one.
Zurdo Ramirez as well. He left.
Oh my God! Did y'all see Mikey Garcia?
Yeah, he did it to Mikey Garcia.
Oh my God! Ellie Setback, I think, caught him, and he was just like, "Well, my brother still does business with him, but pretty much F him."
Yeah, he opened up, and let Arum have it.
Yeah, he called him at the right time for him to really tell how bad it. I mean, I knew it had to be bad for him to be willing to just sit out for almost 2 years, to the life of that contract. It had to be really bad. But boy, did he let loose.
I think the only time where he let somebody go right away and didn't want to finish the contract and go through all of that, it was with Rigon down. Damn, he hated that man so bad. He let him go.
Oh my God, Bob Arum and his many stories of minority bias. I swear, there's so many boxing names.
Yeah, I mean, unless he touches hospice this year, he ain't going nowhere.
He ain't going nowhere.
All right, y'all. That is all I had for tonight. It's been a nice show. Any other comments, anything else? Final last words before we let everybody go.
No, we got a comment from Ricardo Graham that just says, yo back at you.
Yo, Ricardo.
154-pounder I did an interview with. He trained out of St. Pete Boxing Club, and now he's in Detroit working with Tony Harrison. Cool. So shout out to him.
All right. Well, in closing, I'd just like to say I'd love to see Joey Spencer get some real competition.
He looked nice though. I like that.
Oh yeah, no, he's good.
Nice. He's smooth with it too. Like you don't know what you're gonna get hit with. I like that. Where you got a lot of different options.
In this fight, he kept his head really cool, landed the punches he needed to land. But I'd like to see him go 8, 9, 10 rounds.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, for sure. But who? I mean, I don't know who. Who you think would be a good person?
54 is loaded. Put Munguia in there. I don't know, anybody.
Okay.
Maybe not Munguia. That might not be the right foil, but
let that happen. They want Munguia to be the next star. So yeah,
just a good 154, just for a good scrap, because I haven't seen really, really great competition. But the kid's talented. He's strong, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. And I just love to see him. Love to see him fight again, more than one round.
Who's that? Berlanga?
No, Joey Spencer.
Oh, Spencer. Right.
He fought this last weekend.
Yeah, he looked good too.
You know that
I don't know the way that fight finished. It was kind of weird. And then the dude that he was fighting, it went from a boxer to like a street brawler to like a street fighter.
Selden. Yeah.
But guys, I was gonna ask you something. I was still live?
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna ask you something because I saw this tweet by Berlanga right after Caleb Plant won, where I don't know if you guys touched on that, but he basically said, "Oh, that was a cute fight, so I'm ready for you. I think you're ready for me." Edgar Berlanga calling out Caleb Plant. Now, before that,
whoa, damn.
Right, so before the tweet, some other tweet came out saying that David Benavidez' team, his father and his team, contact Berlanga to see if they can make a fight happen, and they literally flat out say, "Well, we're not ready for you yet." But yet he's calling out Caleb Plant. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Because he's white. No, I'm kidding.
Man, I think they see the style and they think maybe they can handle his power. I think they see something that maybe they think they can handle better than what they can handle with Benavidez.
I had to. I couldn't resist it, y'all. I had
to. What you said? I'm gonna hear you.
Man,
it's because he's white. It's because he's white.
Dude, you don't want none of that white smoke nowadays. They come with it. Like they more hungrier than some of the other ethnicities when it comes to getting them championships and working on their legacy.
I'll tell you what, man. If nobody wanted part of Caleb Plant before this fight, now the way that he looked Saturday, that's a good thing and bad thing about it, right? Like he didn't look 100% and impressive and all of that, but he looked like okay. Now he wants. Now the new guys are like, okay, I can mix it up with him. Now and a few guys I'll be like, oh, okay. So now I want to see what can I my style against this fight. So that's a good thing sometimes. Like when you don't look that good, so now you look kind of like a little bit of vulnerable. So when the other people are like, okay, now I don't mind getting a match with you basically.
Hey Javi, Emilio and I got in a huge argument about this subject because I was like, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's good not to look so, just dangerous. I mean, especially if you got a chance of having a super fight with Canelo next. I mean, you want to go in there and look really good, or do you want to look like, okay, just a little bit less than, I feel like boxers do that. Emilio says, nah, you want to look good. You want to look good because you might be getting this fight. You want fans to feel like it's going to be a good scrap. And I was like, nah, I think you want to look a little bit suspect, that somebody can beat you.
In the old days, for sure. In the old days, you want to look good. But nowadays, you kind of want to look like garbage sometimes.
I think,
to draw them in.
Yeah, leave that door open.
Yeah, but you know what it is? I think I might go with Emilia, where it's like you as a fighter, you want to look, tremendous. You want to look sharp. You want to look good. You want to look fantastic. But the thing is, you have to work with what you've been given by your opponent, and the preparation that you have made, the game plan, and how you execute it. And sometimes you can put it together fantastically, and you look like, wow, the next big thing. But sometimes, even with that all together, there's not much that your opponent gives you, or you just have an off night, so you're not gonna look at your 100% all the time. But like I said, you can still leverage it into use it to your advantage and get these matchups, or call out these fighters that didn't want nothing to do with you. Now all of a sudden they saw a few flows, now they're calling you out.
Ready,
you can use it to your advantage. But I think I agree to Emilio. Every time you go in there, you want to look sharp, you want to look your best, you want to look fantastic, you want to look spectacular. But sometimes you just can't. You work.
Maybe it was more like, I need you to look good, Plant, but not too good.
All right, guys, I definitely got to get up out of here. But two things from my last take before I go. Number one, Caleb Plant, we need to work on that nickname. Sweet Hands is not doing it for me. And two, Lucas, hold up your shirt so we can see what that says, because I see what you did here.
Yep, my wife makes these. My
Heavy
saying.
bag. Get in, get out, get.
My saying from last week. I've been trying to get it to catch on. You know, treat your opponent like you treat a booty call. Get in, get off, get out.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you that.
Bam.
That goes in a lot of areas in life. Get in, get off, get out.
That's my play with everything. I get in the grocery store, get what I need, get the hell out. I don't play
Hey,
around.
can I get one of those shirts? I want to get one of those shirts. I want to take it to the gym.
I got you. I got you.
Guys, look at look for Lucas on that. As always, this is your host, Robert Alexander. This is a heavy bag boxing team. This was Tough Talk Tuesday. We will be back on the air, same time, same place next Tuesday. Lucas, tell them where you can find us.
Heavybagboxing.com.
Good night.